Thank you very much, Emma. Welcome back, everyone. I want to introduce you to three good friends of mine, and I expect they are three good friends of you as well. Fast, good, and cheap. So this is really what the broadcasters demand of us. Two of my main productions are Escape to the Country and Grand Designs for Channel 4 and Escape, obviously, for the BBC. They can only have two out of those three. So they can have the production, the series, the project fast and good, but it won't be cheap. They can have it good and cheap, but it won't be fast. Or they can have it cheap and fast, but it won't be very good. So that is a bit of a conundrum for us. And certainly at Talkback, we don't set out to make not very good productions. So let's park that slide and let's come back to it a little bit later on. So Escape to the Country for the BBC. It is a huge production. It's the largest volume production we make at Talkback Thames. It's bigger than X Factor, it's bigger than Britain's Got Talent, it's bigger than Apprentice. This year, we will be delivering 95 shows to the BBC. In 2009, in 1 year, I delivered 180 shows to the BBC. It's a series that goes out BBC One, BBC Two, it goes out in peak, shoulder peak, daytime, weekends. It goes out everywhere. It's very successful for them, and it's very dear to us as well. Going back to those big budget productions, I wish I had their budgets, but I don't. So, how do we go about it? Well, 8 months of location filming. So this year, as was last year and the year before, I start out in March with 4 location teams, and I film for 8 months continuously. Last year we did give the production teams a 1-week break. This year we didn't, and they are certainly flagging. We're on RX74 this week. What's today? Today's Thursday, isn't it? So they're almost at the end, and next week is RX75. So it's a huge production. 12 months of post-production. We're also quite unique. In fact, we're very unique within Talkback. I'm the only production that has its own in-house facility, all Apple Final Cut Pro, which I introduced and built and delivered 5 years ago now. My budget has been cut by 35% in the past 5 years by the BBC. And there was this real crossroads, and I remember the meeting very, very well, which was 5 years ago. Some people within Talkback sort of said, Escape's had its day. We've done, I think at that point, we'd done 3 or 4 years, something like that, 5 series. It was bumbling along, 20 shows, a commission, etc., etc. But there were some of us, myself very much included, that wanted to fight for it and could see an opportunity to embrace new change, to take on file-based production, to try out different workflows, different multi-skilling ideas, etc. So how did we go about it? Well, 5 key areas, really. File-based production. 2007, I was the first production within Talkback to go file-based. In fact, I think I was one of the first in the UK to go file-based. Got my hands on an EX1. I remember the meeting very clearly with Sarah Gator when she was COO. She's now CEO, showing her how the camera worked, etc. And even then, when I look back to that meeting, I couldn't envisage how it was all going to end up, but I just knew that this file-based thing was really going to catch on. I'm not saying I'm a visionary, but I just thought it would. New roles and multi-skilling. We've introduced all sorts of areas where we've tried out new ideas, new multi-skilling roles, and I'll go into a little bit of detail on that. In-house post-production, like I said, started with 2 Apple Final Cut Pro suites, and I'm up to about 11 now, and they work extremely well, and this year we're delivering the show in full HD, so it's full 50 meg production out on location and delivering on SR this year, possibly next year file-based delivery. But I'm in discussions with the Beeb on that one. External audio dubbing. We work in quite an unusual way. I'll go into detail on that. And the biggest area, really, for me, is change management. Getting people's mindsets to change. Donna talks about it, and I think she puts it very, very well by embrace the change. Look upon it as a positive thing, not a negative thing. And you really do need that, and so you need to get everybody on board. Editorial, everybody. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So, file-based production. This series this year shot entirely on Sony EX1 and the Sony PMW 500, of which the camera is at the back there. So 50 meg, first file-based camera from Sony. and it's delivered in spadefuls to us. It's been a great camera. We have had a few little issues with it, which we're working through, but I think the quality is all there for everybody to see up on the screen, and you guys will probably see that series. It possibly might start going out this year or early next, but without a doubt, the quality from even last year, we shot on the BMW 350 camera, 35 meg, recording to S/S, but it's big change. So it's highly effective, it's an efficient workflow, it delivers quality, speed, creativity, reliability and savings. My teams, certainly love both of those cameras, gives them a lot of flexibility out on location, etc. Cameras, they're 35 and 50 meg HD, and we use the 25% up converted rule. So 25% of our material can be up converted to HD. We never even get really close. On Grand Designs, we do get close to that 25%, but on Escape, we never do, because the majority of the material is shot off the 500 camera. The EX1 is really the AP's camera, and as a sort of second unit. All recorded onto S/S cards. And some of those can go all the way back to 2007, so incredibly reliable. We haven't had any issues. In fact, I tell a lie, we had an issue very early on with one card. We managed to retrieve the data off it. That was very early on. But they've been very reliable and very robust. And, with the new BMW kits, I negotiated with Toptex, who are our preferred camera supplier, new cards, etc., with those kits. And we typically send our teams out with about 5 cards a day, so they do have to data wrangle. They can't use them as like tape. The series is entirely self-shot, both PDs and APs, and we don't cut corners on training in any way whatsoever. I really do stress that, and I have to pay for that camera training out of my budget. It's not sort of a Talkback Thames big pot that comes out of my budget. But I think one of the reasons that the series looks so strong and so good is that the technology, and this is a point I stress a lot, is becoming a lot easier to work with. Getting great images out of these high-end cameras is getting easier, but you do have to train people. You can't just get it out the box, give it to them and expect it to be perfect, because they are high-end cameras. And the delivery to the BBC is going to be on SR tape, or is already on SR. I think we've delivered 40 out of the 95 shows so far. And 2012, we're looking very much at file-based delivery. Whether it comes off or not is really more down to the BBC and them setting the right standards. So recording format, tried and trusted, 2,000 hours plus recorded onto S/S cards. Been very reliable, very robust, and we've had no issues with them whatsoever. We work in a very simple way out on location in terms of workflow, and that's something I really stress. You don't need to make it complicated. Again, I think Donna's workflows are very straightforward on embarrassing bodies. The simpler you make it, the easier it is, the less chance that it's something's going to go horribly wrong. So we use a next to, although again, some of the teams decide not to use the next to for various reasons, and we'll go straight from the MacBook into the glyph out on location. And that's a robust way that we've had. It means that it's backed up really in 3 places then out on location. So it's on the next to, it's on the glyph, and it's also on the hard drive of the MacBook. And we've never had any issues. Had some issues with the glyphs. Maybe it's because some of them are getting quite old now, and maybe we need to throw them away, basically. But again, we're looking at a new system for next year. So new roles and multi-skilling. Location sound operator, data wrangler, and researcher, all combined as one. This is something I introduced last year, and one of the main reasons for that, and I hope there's no professional soundies in the room, is on Escape. It's quite unique. We film 48 counties of the UK. Sometimes finding a good sound operator up in the northwestern tip of Scotland, not always possible. Or, as has happened to us on occasions, we've booked Dave Smith, we've turned up, and it's been Bill Jones. Well, where's Dave Smith? Oh, he couldn't do today, so he gave me the job, and clearly this guy was not the calibre that we expected. And that happened a lot. And so series producer and series editor are quite often in my office screaming, saying that, we're not getting the great sound. So when we went fully file-based last year, I decided to look to see if we could train up people. So we set up a course with the National Film School out at Beaconsfield, and we had very focused, tailored training to what they were going to find out on a typical escape shoot. So houses, big echoey barns, out on a windy hillside in Herefordshire, three-way shoots with contributor, presenter, etc. And then I also thought that we could combine the location sound operator role with the data wrangler. They're both very, very similar. They look for focus, attention to detail, etc. So we trained our location soundies in data wrangling as well. And then when they are not out on location and they're in the office preparing for a week out on location, they become researchers. So I believe that by doing that, we're creating a multifaceted role that certainly works for us, and I think works for them as well. And I mean, I know data wranglers out down at Pinewood, and when I say data wrangler, I mean somebody with a glyph, a MacBook, and a few wires earning £500 a day. So in the off-season, when they're not shooting, they can go down there, or Shepperton, or Leavesden, or wherever, and become data wranglers, and those guys have done very well out of it. That is a role that's worked extremely well, as I will sort of demonstrate. So it's improved the quality of the production, no end, and it's generated about 50% savings, which we've now ploughed back into the production to keep those production values up. Means that we can hire expensive high-end kit like the PMW 500, etc. It doesn't mean that I can deliver a massive underspend on the series. It just means I'm ploughing that money back into delivering a better production to the BBC. Assistant editors is another area that we've looked at multi-skilling. They're very keen. They want to become editors, and they are becoming editors. So why not give them the opportunity to edit? So a lot of them work on assemblies. Typically, we have about 40 hours of material, and they will cut a lot of that material down to maybe about an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes, and then hand it on to the editor and the edit producer to work with. That means we stick to our edit schedule, and again, that has worked very well. This year, I got one of my newly appointed editors. She was an assistant editor for 2 years, I think Charlotte was, and we made her up, in fact, last year, and this year she's back. She's done a full sort of 11 months on the show, and I got her into the Broadcast Hot Shots 100 this year, so I was very pleased for her because she's a real star. And now another person has gone that same route, so they're now starting to edit as well. So again, it gives people that opportunity to move up the ladder. In-house post-production, it's all Apple Final Cut Pro. It delivers creative flexibility. It means the content is kept by Talkback. We have had issues in the past with some of the post-production houses in Soho where, you know, who owns the content, where does it sit, how do we get it out, if it's file-based, where does the cost sit, etc. So all of that content is kept by Talkback, and we archive everything off onto LTO. Again, when I set it up 5 years ago, there was no better system than LTO at that time. There isn't really now. Yeah, things are opening up now with the cloud and other areas, but LTO, for my money, is still a robust system. Fixed costs. So I know what I have to deliver back to Talkback to the CFO. It delivers me financial stability. I'm sure some of you out there sometimes get nasty invoices from post-production houses for DVDs at £30 a DVD, or machine time at £30 an hour or whatever. I don't have any of that, so it gives me financial stability. I know where I stand, and Talkback knows where it stands. Some revenue stays within Talkback, and it allows me to cut in the high volume that we do on the show. It means I can do cut downs and internationals as well, because we're owned by Fremantle. Escape is sold into around about 34 countries around the world, so we do all of the internationals in-house as well. And DVDs, this is actually a little bit of an old slide, because DVDs are certainly becoming a bit of a thing of the past now, certainly with within the production. The series editor doesn't view off a DVD, he views off his computer now. Exec producer in London, he views off a computer. We're trying to get the commissioning editor at the BBC to work in that way, and she does on occasions, but she still likes a physical DVD copy, but we'll see where we get to. It would cost 300% more externally to produce Escape. I could not produce Escape to the Country now with an external company. However small they might be and however keen they might be, there's just no way I believe that they could do it for what we do it for. Audio dubbing. So it's high volume, non-attend, exec producer, series editor, series producer. They can't sit there for 75 shows. That would equate to a minimum of 150 days sat in a dubbing suite. So I've been working in quite an unusual way. Our dubbing mixer is 120 miles away from my base in Amersham. He's up in Birmingham. He never sees a tape from us, and we never see a tape from him. We send him up 2 FLAC files up the line. He opens them up his end. He mixes it. It could be 10, 11, 12 tracks on those shows. He then mixes it all down and sends us 2 files back down the line. We marry it up with picture. We do a play out for the series editor to listen to. We've already picture locked it, so he knows the pictures work. He's listening for the audio. Is he happy with the music mix? Is the presenter coming across nice and loud and clear? Does he want a bit more twittering bird atmos at that point? If he does, on the phone, very quickly, but we don't have to redub the whole show, just 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 3 minutes, whatever it is, redubbed, sent back down the line, jumped in onto the timeline, and away we go. So we've worked like that for 4.5 years now, and it's worked extremely well. Again, fixed buyout costs. So when I negotiate with Ron up in Birmingham, we come to an agreement that's generated 50% savings. It works for him, it works for me. He does a lot of work for ITV Sport. He works out on location. He's never missed a delivery date, so he works it around his own workload, and he's got his own studio at home. Again, those sort of 4 key words: quality, speed, creativity, and flexibility. It delivers all 4 of those to us. Change management. Huge part of my life. So technological, I need to evaluate, I need to embrace, and I need to action. PMW 500 is a real good example of that. I saw that camera 12 months ago when David was showing it at IBC. I knew it was the camera for us. We knew that we were going to be commissioned in HD for the Beeb. We'd already been working with the 350, which was a 35 meg S/S record camera. So that was a natural progression for us. We knew that we could work in a file-based workflow, but it takes time. It takes time to get it onto the shoulders of the PDs, the APs, get them shooting with it, see how they look at it, find it, etc. And then back at base, how does it work in post-production? And we're still sort of embracing it and still evaluating it really as we go, because there are areas of it that it is a high-end camera. So that's one of the areas of change management that's very difficult. Structural as well. It demands better training, better effective training, and more focused. And that's something that's really key, that it can't be just sort of a overarching generic training. It really has to be specific to that camera, that type of system, etc. There has to be incentives as well. So when I'm trying to sell this into the exec producer, he gives me that look and says, oh, here he comes again, with one of his harebrained ideas. What's he want to change now? So my first thing is, it's a creative enabler, John. It's really going to make your series look so much better if we work with this camera or with this new system. So there has to be a motivation, but there has to be a change in mindset. Again, Donna talks about that, and I think that's really absolutely clear. Everybody, cliche as it is, has to be singing off the same hymn sheet, sailing in the same direction. But it generates a new energy within the production. And, for something as big as Escape, that's so key. I've done 25 series, I think, of Escape now. So a huge amount of, 600 or 700 shows probably. And every year, new team come on board, new, energy is required. When you're making this sort of volume as well, you need that. But I've also found that people, APs, PDs, edit producers, etc., they want to learn new systems, they want to learn new technologies, and I think we all have a collective responsibility to that as well. Out-of-the-box thinking. I need to have the freedom to try stuff and fail, and so do you guys, because if we don't try new ways of working, we'll never know whether it works or it doesn't work. So again, within your companies, you have to try and change that mindset. What's been the impact of this new technology? Well, from the early days that I first started working on Escape, when Catherine G was the only presenter, I've now got 6 of them. The commission has increased from 20 episodes to 100 plus. Like I said, in 2009, we delivered 180 shows. Crewed to self-shot, so all the PDs, all the APs, self-shooting. And that, again, I think comes down to that technology is becoming easier to work with. External post-production to in-house post-production. That's a huge shift for us 5 years ago. Really was an enormous shift. You know, nobody had ever done it. And there were certainly a lot of negative thinking going around Talkback. I think there was only about 2 people on the sort of board that supported me in that move. Higher production values. We are, without doubt, delivering far more for far less. And that is, unfortunately, the painful world that all of us are in, whether you're Talkback Thames or, you know, a smaller production company, even on the likes of X Factor and Talent, their budgets are being squeezed, believe you me. So we have to look at these areas to deliver more for less. If it's not happening already on your production or within your company, it will be soon, trust me. And I've also seen enormous growth through the technology innovation, both in terms of the series. You can see the numbers have increased. There's enormous cost efficiencies for there when we're turning out 95 shows, but also people, the ability to move shooting researchers up to APs, APs up to PD. One of our APs on RX74 this week is in fact, it's her second opportunity to direct a show. And that's something that gives me great job satisfaction. I've been in this industry almost 30 years, and to see people move on up the ladder is great, and to be able to offer them that. I've moved edit producers up to series producers. So a lot of opportunity there. I've moved edit assistants up to full-blown editors. So new technology allows people to grow with it as well. So back to my very good friends, fast, good and cheap. I believe that by embracing new technology, by looking at new multi-skilling ways and means, by having a change of ideology, a change in management ideas, that we can deliver fast, good and cheap to the broadcasters. Thank you very much. Any questions?